Hi everybody, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and it is Sunday, which means of course it is time for our Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. We actually had kind of a light week of movies this week. We only watched 4 movies. We were doing some other stuff in the evenings, and we have been watching our shows. We are still working on Handsome Siblings. We dipped into the 3rd season of What We Do in the Shadows. You guys are watching that one, right? Oof. Highly recommended. And Sean and I actually just started watching The Wire, which we never watched when it first came out, but I guess HBO made a bunch of their content available free due to the coronavirus pandemic. So thanks, HBO. We dipped into that. But none of those are movies, and I'm here to talk about movies. So what 4 movies did we watch this week? We started the week with Napoleon Dynamite from 2004. I'm sure you guys have all seen this movie and remember it fondly. I wanted to go back and check it out. At the time that it came out, Sean and I had just moved to Eugene, and it was almost painful how accurate that movie is to the, not Oregon, but Idaho scene. And Idaho is like kind of like the less cool, even more backwards, even less contemporary with the times, sister state of Oregon here in the Pacific Northwest, which is already a little bit behind the times for the rest of everybody else anyhow. So when we first saw it in 2004, after we had just moved to Eugene, it was almost too much, almost too accurate, you know? And it was like, yeah, it was really good, but it was like, wow, that time, that place, those people. It was just a little too much for both Sean and I, on top of having just moved to Eugene and the culture shock of moving to Eugene from Oakland, California, right? Very different worlds. So I hadn't seen it in, 16 years, and wanted to go back and check it out and wanted to show it to the kids because I knew that they would love it. And of course they did. Of course it's an incredible movie. It's as charming as ever. It holds up incredibly well. I had no negative feelings about it now that I've lived in the state of Oregon for 16 years. And it's not, the culture shock isn't freaking me out anymore. It's great. What can I say? You guys probably have seen this movie. If you haven't, it's a story of a really awkward guy in high school, Napoleon Dynamite, growing up in, bumfuck Idaho. He's a member of the Future Farmers of America and just a total nerd who has no friends. He befriends one guy named Pedro, who then winds up running for student council, and Napoleon is supporting him in that effort. And of course, there is a climactic scene in the movie where he has to come out in support of Pedro and do a skit off the cuff. They don't realize they're going to have to do a skit as part of running for student body president, and Napoleon comes out and does this incredible dance number on stage in front of the whole school and takes the whole thing, right? Oops, sorry, spoiler alert, but movie's still incredible. If you haven't seen it, you should absolutely watch it. It really nails the specific out of timeness of Idaho. A lot of the movie feels like it's set in the 80s. But that's like exactly right for 2004 Idaho, because Idaho is like continuously 15 to 20 years behind the times of the rest of everywhere, or even more. It's totally charming, great performances by all of the actors in the movie, great writing, great cinematography. I loved sort of the flat takes on everything. It's incredible. I learned when I was doing my research for my Cinema Club reviews that John Hader, who plays Napoleon Dynamite in the movie, actually completely improvised the climactic dance sequence. There was no choreography. He just loves to dance. And so they did like 3 different takes of him dancing around to this Jamiroquai song, which apparently they didn't even have the rights to use in the movie yet when they recorded it. And then just edited the 3 of them together and made that incredible dance sequence in the movie. Yeah, it's a great movie. If you're not feeling like, totally crazily culture shocked by just having moved from the Bay Area to Oregon, definitely recommended. Recommended for pretty much everyone. It's great all around. We totally loved it. And of course, the kids absolutely adored it and thought it was great. Then next night after we watched Napoleon Dynamite, we decided to finally show the kids This is Spinal Tap. One of them actually got inches and feet mixed up on a measurement, and I was like, oh, time to watch Spinal Tap. We had been talking about it for years, of course. They loved it, obviously. Who doesn't love it? This movie is incredible. If for some reason you live under a rock and have never seen This is Spinal Tap, this is the 1984 mockumentary made by Rob Reiner, also starring Rob Reiner as Marty DeBurgy in the movie, about this fictitious heavy metal band, the loudest band in the world, Spinal Tap. And it's ostensibly a documentary following them around on a North American tour that they're doing to support an album which is having all kinds of production problems with being released. So that's kind of the basic story of it. And it is this deadpan parody of rock and rollers and what the touring life is like and what you would see behind the scenes on that type of tour. Apparently, when it first came out, it flew over a lot of people's heads. People really thought Spinal Tap was a real band. They thought it was a totally, honest and straightforward documentary about this real band. Apparently, Rob Reiner hired an experienced documentary filmmaker to be his head of photography, and the guy was like, "What's so funny about this?" and didn't get it, which is why it is such a success, because it looks and feels like a really real documentary about something real. Spinal Tap is for everybody, but I recommend it, of course, the most for rock and rollers. If you are a rock and roller, if you are a heavy metal fan, if you like watching live concerts, or reading about the touring life, or watching videos behind the scenes backstage with your favorite bands, Spinal Tap will be even funnier than it is for everyone else. But it's 100% recommended for everyone. I will note there is, of course, an iconic scene in the movie where Nigel Tufnell explains that his amplifiers go up to 11 because they're one louder than everything else. And a little interesting piece of trivia is that over on IMDb, they rank the movies out of 10 stars total, and Spinal Tap is the only movie where it actually goes up to 11, and you can rank it up to 11 stars. It only has 7.9 out of 11, which is pretty good. I think, 8 out of 11 is a pretty decent score. I personally would rank it higher, but some, joy kills are just, bringing the score down. But, that's how it works with the ratings aggregators online, right? One of the other things that I learned while I was doing my research for this vlog today is that almost all of the dialogue in This is Spinal Tap is totally improvised by the actors. Apparently, Rob Reiner wrote backstories for the characters, and for each scene, he would kind of describe, okay, here's what's going on, here's the scenario that's happened, but then he just cut them loose and said, go for it, go in character, say whatever these characters would say. And then he tried to use the first take if he could every time, because he really wanted it to have that documentary kind of cinema verite feel, right? An incredible movie, 1,000% recommended for everyone. You can then dip into the whole world of Spinal Tap because, of course, the success of the movie made them make the fake band into an actual band that wound up going on tour years later, and there's all kinds of merchandise and other offshoots that happen from the original movie. But, go back to basics, go back to the first original movie, watch it again if you haven't watched it in a while. It holds up incredibly well, just as funny as always. One of my favorite movies of all time. So, Spinal Tap, excuse me, This is Spinal Tap. James kept correcting me. He was like, Mom, Spinal Tap is the name of the band. This is Spinal Tap is the name of the movie. So, This is Spinal Tap, totally recommended for everyone. The next night after that was actually Walpurgisnacht, which is Witches' Night. And so I took the opportunity to show the kids The Witches, the 1990 adaptation of the Roald Dahl book, of course, produced by Jim Henson Productions. And there's a lot of great puppeteering going on in the movie. We had a blast watching this one. It was totally fun. If you've never read this book or seen this movie, well, first of all, this is one of those ones I will recommend you read the book first. The movie's really, really good. The book is great. And the places where the movie diverges from the book are not great, but the movie as a whole does a really good job of being its own thing. Of course, Angelica Houston as the Grand High Witch steals the show, whether she's in her sexy human form or in her disgusting witch form. And whew, That transformation scene in the ballroom is so amazing. If you're not going to sit down and watch The Witches, I recommend just look up just that transformation scene on YouTube, but really watch the whole movie because come on, you should watch this movie. It's great. One of the things I learned in researching for this vlog is apparently Roald Dahl really didn't like the ending treatment of the movie. Without giving away too much, the ending of the book and the ending of the movie are a little bit different from each other. The ending of the book is a little bit more brutal, and the ending of the movie is a little bit more, happy ending type of scenario. And apparently Roald Dahl, when he first saw the ending of the movie, was very upset that it didn't match with the ending of the book. And so the director agreed to shoot an alternate ending scene so that it would match with the book. And apparently Roald Dahl loved the alternate ending and wanted that to be the ending of the movie. But then the director made the decision to go with the ending that we actually have on the movie, which doesn't match with the end of the book. And apparently this pissed Roald Dahl off so much, he demanded that his name be removed from the credits of the movie and was about to mount some really heavy negative PR campaign against the movie, but then was convinced otherwise by Jim Henson. So a lot of celebrity drama going on in the background of that one. I do agree with Roald Dahl. I think that the ending of the movie is the weakest part. The opening also, the opening credit sequence has this weird jumpy, hypercam sped up flying over landscapes thing going on. And then this green letters that kind of don't work visually with the feeling of the movie. So I would say great movie altogether, except the opening credits and the very end of the movie. But everything in between those, fantastic. Definitely check it out if you are into Roald Dahl adaptations. Children's horror, it's a great one. I mean, it's got some scary stuff in it, but it's not so scary that I wouldn't show it to a little kid. And it's obviously geared towards children because it's a Roald Dahl book adaptation made by Jim Henson, right? But still scary. So it's kind of a cool, what do you call it? Gateway horror, right? Really, a really fun one. Definitely should check that out if you're into any of the things I just talked about. And the final movie that we watched this week is the Dutch film Spoorloos, which translates to The Vanishing, which came out originally in 1988, but was released in America in 1991. I saw it by accident. I've told you guys before, I spent a lot of my time in high school cutting school and going to the movies instead of school. Sorry, Mom and Dad. And this was one where I didn't even know what I was getting into. I just was like, I'm not going to school today. I'm going to go see a movie. And I went over to the theater and I had actually missed the very beginning of the movie. So I didn't even know what it was called. And I watched it and I was blown away. It is a intense psychological thriller about a couple who go on a road trip and the woman disappears at a rest stop and the man spends the rest of the movie trying to find her and figure out what happened to her. He becomes totally obsessed. He meets up with the kidnapper after sort of playing this game of cat and mouse with him for literally years, using the media and whatnot. And then he wants so badly to find out what happened to his missing girlfriend that he's willing to experience whatever it was that she experienced at the hands of this guy. And I'm going to leave it at that because we don't want to say any more. But this movie is really, it's really thrilling. It's really terrifying in a lot of ways. And the way the story is told is really interesting because we meet the bad guy early on. He's identified in the movie early on, even before the protagonist actually figures out who he is. And we see a lot of his life and what's going on with him and how he kind of set up his crimes and stuff. But despite the fact that there's a lot of revealed about him early in the movie, it still manages to be extremely suspenseful and very thrilling. And there's a lot of unexpected things which happen in the movie. I'm going to have to be vague on this one because this is really a watch it blind, don't know too much about it going into it type of movie, just because of those sort of twists and turns that happen, as with any good psychological thriller. Interestingly, this movie was actually remade in English by the Dutch director, whose name is, I gotta look at my notes, George Sluizer. I hope I'm saying that right. He remade it in English, starring Kiefer Sutherland and I think Jeff Bridges, but I might be wrong, a couple of years later, like 1993 or 94. And that remake is no good, and it totally bombed, which it should have, because the original is really, really, really amazing. And again, this is one of those things where it's like, are you really going to let the fact that the movie's in another language and you have to read subtitles stop you from watching an amazing movie? No! Don't let it stop you, because you can read and watch a movie at the same time. I believe in you. Interesting trivia on this movie. According to Wikipedia, Stanley Kubrick called it the most terrifying movie he had ever seen. Whoa. That's kind of interesting, and I'd like to see where that actually came from, because again, Wikipedia quotes, who knows? But, you know, an interesting element of that one. So, if you're interested in psychological thrillers, if you dig foreign films, if you want kind of a twisty story that you don't know where it's going to wind up, Spoorloos, or The Vanishing, again, came out in 1988 is the one you want. There's a couple of other movies by the same title. Don't watch the other ones. Watch the one from 1988, the Dutch version. It's a great movie, and if you guys like psychological thrillers, I think you will love this one. Not easily available, but we did find it on Criterion streaming service, so that's the place to find that one. All right, that's it. That's what we watched this week. If you guys follow me on Facebook, you'll know we've actually planned the next few days for Cinema Club, and I'm really excited. We're going to be watching The Blues Brothers tonight, one of my all-time favorites. Sean wants to screen the Wicker Man remake, the 2006 Nicolas Cage version, which I've never seen, so I think we're watching that tomorrow. And then Jimmy has picked Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. He got real excited after we watched The Witches, and he was like, we got to watch another Roald Dahl movie. And I said, oh boy, have I got a good one for you. So I think we're doing that on Tuesday. Anyhow, you guys let me know what you've been watching, what you're planning on watching, what your cinema club has been doing. You know, I always love to hear it and engage with you guys down in the comments. I will be back in a few more days with another episode of my vlog, and I will be back on Friday with another Shibori tutorial for my vlog. Until then, I hope you guys take care, and I will see you later.